Good morning, everyone. My name is Travis Townsend, and welcome to Bacon and Brainwork, a weekly morning show where I give my thoughts on various topics such as politics, social issues, and even sports to give you a different perspective and leave you something to think about. So, in this week's episode, I'm going to talk about an issue that's really important to me, and it's improving police and community relations. This topic is relevant, particularly right now, because I recently served as a moderator on a panel discussion for leaders in the city of Atlanta discussing this very topic. The panel was comprised of city politicians, leaders in law enforcement, members of the judiciary, and civil rights activists. And the commentary and the discussion was very, very frank. And quite frankly, I believe that the forum had an approach to the topic that was somewhat different from a lot of the forums and town halls that try to address this issue. And that will be sort of my takeaway for today. The point that I really want to raise will be the takeaway from that experience. So I really appreciated the members on this panel for their frankness, right? And a lot of times you can get law enforcement on one side and you can get community members on the other side at a conversation or a town hall or forum to discuss this particular issue, and it ends up being a shouting match, an us versus them situation. It's a you're responsible, and me, I did everything right, and I'm just out here trying to live, right? And so we'll have a gathering of individuals coming to talk about this issue where they end up leaving more upset and farther apart than when they came. But that actually didn't happen at this program. And so I want to share some of the things that went on there so those out there in the viewing audience could maybe consider for themselves and steps that they might be able to take when they're addressing this issue or just considering this issue or sharing about this issue with friends and family. The best way to approach this and try to solve this problem, I think, is for immediately when there's a discussion about a police interaction with civilians. And I'll just give you a backdrop. Usually we're talking about this topic in the context of probably some unarmed civilian being treated a certain way, maybe brutalized or actually dead, put to death on the street from a police interaction, right? We're not currently talking about that right now because there's not a major issue such as a Michael Brown or a Freddie Gray to be talking about that's flying through social media and the news, which I think is a bad thing that we don't talk about this topic until there's somebody laying in the streets. In order to prevent somebody being laying in the street, we need to start talking about this conversation on the front end and being more proactive. So in connection with talking about it on the front end and being proactive, folks have to tamp down their tempers. They have to put their emotions aside and really, really go old school and put themselves in the shoes of folks on the other sides of the issue. I think civil rights activists really need to try to put themselves in the shoes of law enforcement agents, and law enforcement agents really need to try to put themselves in the shoes of civilians. For example, if we have an incident where there's a police community or police civilian interaction where, it's the news, we feel like the civilian was harassed, improperly arrested, maybe improperly, there was force that shouldn't have been used. And so we're going to talk about it. Maybe in that instance, when you see it across your ticker on your news, or you see it in your social media, or you read it on your paper, maybe you take a step back and say, hold on, now I'm inclined to believe that the civilian was in the right, or I'm inclined to believe that the law officer was just doing his job. Wherever side you fall on that, take a step back and force yourself to put yourself in the shoes of the other side. So if you believe law enforcement is typically right in these situations, just for the sake of edifying yourself and trying to have a better understanding, maybe you refine and reinforce your position. Consider the civilian and what they may have been doing or thinking. Consider their family, consider their experiences that may have led to whatever facts resulted in this interaction, and vice versa. You know, if you're a civil rights leader and you're ready to get on the podium and denounce law enforcement across the country, take a step back, consider the things that law enforcement agents have to deal with. I mean, they're out there risking their lives every day. They're out there to enforce the laws. I hear a gunshot, I run away from it. Most civilians, if not all civilians, do the same thing. Law enforcement officers have to run to those gunshots. So consider that before you go out and know all the rage in denouncing law enforcement agents. It's an age-old principle. Putting yourself in the shoes of others will help this conversation and help this chasm, maybe bring this chasm, shrink it a little bit if folks start doing that. And that's something I wanted to share. I mean, we had that conversation, and that was the spirit of the conversation. The citizens that were there at the forum, they really appreciated the correspondence and the communication, and actually the community that was shared with them, with law enforcement officers, with their city leaders and politicians. And the law enforcement officers, they appreciated the commentary from the citizens. They were challenged a little bit, but they also appreciated that they were there trying to be involved. And I think that could go a long way. That event served as an example that a lot of us can follow. So I'm gonna leave you with this. Police and community relations can be improved. There might be a chasm, but we can close it if we start to put ourselves in the shoes of the others and start empathizing. Have a great morning.